We are proud that we are actually the leading EV company in logistic in last mile transport sector, not only in Vietnam but also in Southeast Asia. Southeast Asia Tesla, that is quite a compliment, and I'm flattered to hear that and humbled to hear that actually. I don't think we deserve with that title, but I think in a way we are very similar to what Tesla do, because we master on their ecosystem. We develop from scratch our own product and our own technology. Of course, we in a different market segment. We are in two-wheelers, in last mile delivery, Tesla in car. But in terms of development process, share a lot of similarities, a lot of the similar challenges. And we're also the pioneer in the region. So a lot of sense similar, but we're still a long way to go there. Hi, my name is Nguyen Huu Phuoc Nguyen. I'm co-founder and CEO of SELEX Motors. We are a startup in electric motorcycles based in Hanoi, and we focus on developing an ecosystem for electric motorcycles to drive the adoption of this kind of vehicle in Vietnam and Southeast Asia. So SELEX Motors was founded in 2018. Unlike other companies focusing on developing an electric motorcycles, we actually developed a complete ecosystem that really solve key things, key problems in electric vehicles, which are the convenience in charging, the cost, and also novel values that have the electric vehicles can compete with gasoline vehicles. So we have been doing this since 2018 until now, and right now we're focusing on logistics sectors. We're providing the most optimal ecosystem for last mile transport in Southeast Asia, actually, the first ecosystem in Southeast Asia. I have a PhD in mechanical engineering from the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, USA. My background, I have 16 years of experience in automotive, energy, and aerospace. I used to work for Viettel Aerospace Institute, which is an aerospace institute that develop highly classified advanced defense products before starting SELEX Motors in 2018. I actually refused a lot of job offers, good opportunities in the USA to return Vietnam to make an impact. I want to drive the sustainable development in Vietnam and in Southeast Asia in general. Sustainability in the sense of environmental sustainability, but also in terms of sustainable development. The quality of the development, the depth of the development. So we want to create a kind of a company similar to Hyundai in Korea. We are inspired by that kind of company actually. So we want to create the same company in Vietnam to help Vietnam to really fully realize its potential and drive the country to much more sustainable development. So Vietnam has a lot of potential in electric vehicles, but as you say, we are still in very early phase. So early that people are still need to have more education on how EVs could be beneficial for them. And I think one of the barrier is the energy infrastructure, how we can help the people to refill their energy as quickly and as convenient as possible, similar to what they are doing with gasoline vehicles right now. And I think that is the biggest barrier. And we are solving that by setting up a network of battery swapping services, battery swap points across the cities, so people can just swap the battery in under 2 minutes, very convenient. The second problem is that the cost with associated with the buying the vehicle is expensive, because But EV has a battery, and battery can account for more than 50% of the total cost. So we have to solve that as well. And the third is that the general awareness of the public about EV is still limited. We need to educate the people more on how the EV actually can be a good choice for them. The market size of Vietnam in electric, not electric, but in two-wheeler in general is large. We have about 50 million two-wheelers running on the street right now. Most of them are gasoline motorcycles. Electric vehicles right now account for about, I would say in total, about 5% of that. It's still very early phase, and most of the 5% market share actually in a very niche market for secondary and high school students. Because they do not need a license to drive a certain type of electric bikes or scooter. So mostly the growth so far has been driven by that niche market. So in order for the mass adoption of EV, like I said, we have to solve the energy infrastructure. We have to lower the cost, and of course the government policy is very important. Yeah, the government has a strong intention in developing green economy, sustainable economy in general. For example, the Prime Minister already committed to net zero emission by 2050. That's a very ambitious goal. So I'm sure the government gonna take concrete action in having more specific policies in supporting development green economies, including EV. And in fact, the government already has a roadmap for outlining the development of green transportation, saying that by 2040, there's no more gasoline vehicles on the street. There's a clear roadmap for that, but we still need more. We need more policies, more incentives for the adoption of electric vehicles. For example, incentive on the tax, incentive on the fees, incentive for the manufacturers to produce locally, things like that. I think it would accelerate the adoption of EV much faster. But at the same time, even without that, Vietnam market is already very attractive because it's large, it has huge potential. And in terms of the companies in Vietnam, actually, for many other investors, foreign investors in the region, they say that product-wise, company-wise, Vietnam actually leading the region in terms of EV development. Just that we are lagging behind the policy. We started in 2018. We developed a comprehensive ecosystem for electric two-wheelers. So that ecosystem consists of 4 key elements: electric two-wheelers, highly compatible battery pack that can be shared and used across different brands, compatible with about 70% of existing electric scooters on the market. The third component is battery swapping station, allows the users to conveniently swap their empty battery with the fully charged batteries. In under just 2 minutes, the user can swap for 150 kilometers of range. And the last component is an IoT-based management platform where the user and the company can manage the whole system in one application. So basically that's our ecosystem, and right now we are focusing on B2B logistics sectors. We work with B2B the big logistic companies, especially in last mile delivery, like company like Grab, DHL, Lazada, Baemin, for example, to help them to transition to electric vehicles. Yeah, and our business model is B2B and B2C. Yeah, we sell vehicles to the companies or sell to the drivers in partnership with companies.
How about the B2C?
The B2C right now we do not focus that much, but we do have a plan to develop models for B2C customers, and also together with development distribution network for that. Our vehicles right now is good, very optimal for transport, for cargo or passenger transport, but at the same time, it can be good for both commercial and personal activities, and we actually have received quite a good interest in B2C sectors as well. So we are not really limited ourselves to B2B model, but that is a good start point. The USPs of our ecosystem is that we help the user save about 30 to 40% of their fuel costs and their maintenance and repair costs. We also help them to improve about 50% of their load capacity, basically improve their productivity. That's our USP, and of course the convenience from the battery swapping. With under 2 minutes we can swap for the batteries, and that is the key enabler for commercial activity. Our sector is very selective in raising fund because EV is hot. It's a very challenging in terms of product development. It takes a long time. The product cycles takes a long time, and also there are not many investors, especially back in 2018 when we started, are really into EV or confident about investing in EV. So initially we had to put our own money, our own saving, and raised a fund from angel investors initially, and then once we have product development completed and we can show that there's a product and market fit, we was able to raise VC fund. So that's how we have progressed so far. So it's been quite challenging in terms of fundraising, but right now we are in a very good position. We already attracted quite a good number of investors in the region because they see clearly the trend in EV and of course the potential of Celex. Yeah. So our first VC round was $2.1 million in 2020. 2022, and it was led by Touchstone Partners, and it co-invested by Nextrans, an investor from Korea, and also ADB Venture, Asian Development Bank Venture, at that time. And we just recently also closed a deal of $3 million investment from Asian Development Bank Ventures, Schneider Electric Energy, Asia Energy Access Venture, Supung Venture, and also Touchstone Partner. It's very difficult to do an EV startup in Vietnam, or I think even in Southeast Asia, because it's not the thing that we are used to here. We are used to software, we're used to services here. We're not used to doing an automotive startup in Vietnam. So the most difficult thing would be the mindset from the people around you, and the including your friends or family, your investors, policy makers. Initially, they didn't believe that we could do it, because we came up with an idea that I'm going to build this ecosystem for electric vehicles, and nobody really would believe in that, and that was challenging as it prevented us from raising fund and acquiring resources to do, but we persisted anyhow, and we just believed in what we wanted to do. And I think other challenges would be raising fund, obviously, I already shared. The other is recruiting the right people with right skill set. EV is an empty space, and was an empty space when we started. We are the first EV company, EV startup in Southeast Asia, I think. In Vietnam for sure. Even VinFast wasn't formed at the time that we started. Of course, it wasn't announced. They wasn't announced. We wasn't aware of VinFast at that time. And some other startup was later founded after Celex actually. So it empty space, and there's no qualified people in that sector. So it's very difficult to assemble a team with limited resources at the beginning. So we have to train ourselves, to train the new people, and get in touch with the experts in different fields, because EV is like a broad space. You have mechanical problems, you have electronics problems, you have software, you have many other things. So we had to go find different experts in different fields, and connect the people together, even though it's small, but we started with the small, and we trained the people and build it from there. So it was quite challenging. Yeah. Our plan right now is scaling up in Vietnam, in big cities in Vietnam. So we are focusing heavily in Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City right now, setting up swap points, battery swap points in these key cities. Make sure that using electric scooters is as convenient, if not more convenient, than gasoline vehicle. And also working with our last mile delivery partner companies to really deploy our solution as fast as we can. The next step would be developing B2C models, right kind of B2C models for other segments. So we want to expand beyond logistics. And the next step, the third step, would be mining the ecosystem that we have built, because one big component of our strategy is software-driven services. So we want to mine the data from the ecosystem so that we can offer better products and also better services. The dream in my life is I want Vietnam to really prosper. I want Vietnam to fully realize its potential, and to become a prosperous and sustainable country. That is one of the things that I always think about. I want to eventually be able to develop electric cars or trucks and many other types of electric vehicles. So the name of Celex is actually abbreviation for smart electric vehicles, and there's an X at the end of it. It means X factor. It can be anything. It can be two-wheeler, three-wheeler, four-wheeler, even aeroplanes. So I think that's the future, right? Electric vehicles are the future. Smart electric vehicles are the future. So we are not limited ourselves to two-wheelers, but of course right now we only focus on that. But other type of vehicles is always in our dream. I want to be able to read the mind of the people. Because I think if I can read the mind of the people, then I can solve any problem. And that's the quickest way to solve. Most of the problem comes from misunderstanding or ineffective communication, and not knowing what the other people want. And I think maybe if I'm able to know exactly what people want without even saying,